I was thrilled with the topics chosen, David and Matteo, leadership and team-based learning, TBL, which I always associate with team working. It's one of the forerunners. And I decided to talk about leadership. And to start out, I think I need to address the problems that are associated. If we look at the numbers, and this was here at the turn of the millennium, we can see that about 98,000 people die from preventable errors in the USA. And in the UK, almost 10% of hospital admissions were associated with adverse harm. These are terrible numbers, and these were associated with a plenitude of errors: diagnostic errors, treatment errors, errors associated with inadequate monitoring, inadequate follow-up of treatment. The bottom line, 70% of the errors, almost 70% of the errors, were related to leadership and teamwork. If we look at surgery, which is something we tend to look at when we talk about medical errors, only about 4% are related to technical errors. The rest of the errors are related to poor teamwork and poor leadership. So the question that we're asking ourselves as medical educators is technical competence enough for modern, safe clinical practice? If we look at teamwork and its effects on mortality, you can see as the percentage of staff works as a team, mortality index goes down dramatically. The same thing, however, is true for leadership. It affects patient mortality as well as safety outcomes in terms of adverse effects and complications. In 2006, inadequate leadership was the contributing factor of almost 50% of adverse events in healthcare. So it seems that when we're talking delivery of safe, high quality patient care is dependent upon both teamwork and leadership. Now, the team, it can be the expert team, which is the same team every time with skilled individuals with a stable membership, okay, clearly defined roles, or it can be a team of experts, which is a little bit more ad hoc, just that everyone is a very highly skilled individual. No matter what type of team we're talking about, however, leadership is an essential part of team working, with clearly defined roles, with clear direction of the team, with engagement of the team members. This balance, leadership and teamwork, is extremely important. And that's why I was really thrilled with the topics that were chosen for this meeting, this online meeting. Very, very appropriate. So today, the traditional focus on education, on skills, is not enough. We need to look and increase our competence in non-technical skills. So having set the problem, what I'd like to talk about over the next 20 minutes or so is leadership as a non-technical skill. I'd like to define leadership, tell you about the types of leadership, discuss a little the issues and challenges that are faced by leaders in healthcare, and then address a little bit about leadership competency and how we teach the leader role. Now, when we talk about leadership, we often hear, lack of leadership, poor leadership, verbal abuse. These are all very negative things that we associate with leaders. And this is actually historically derived from the leaders of yesterday, which it was the might is right, I tell you what to do, the ordinate subordinate attitude. This is old school, but in many cases, this type of attitude still carries on. Leadership today has a lot of innuendo, vision, responsibility, guidance, devotion. But the bottom line is that still today, there's no common agreed definition of what leadership is. A process of motivating people to achieve great things is often said. It could be considered a process of social influence occurring in a group context so that we can reach a common goal. And finally, engaging others to contribute to a higher vision. These are all ideas of a definition of leadership. However, leadership is often associated with management and administration. You need management and administration to be a leader, but they're not exactly equal. Management is actually maintaining the status quo, where leadership is setting the change. It's permitting the change. So if you look at the differences between leadership and management, there are differences in terms of the role, the focus, the approach, the methodology, the style, the outcome. The role in leadership versus management, on the one hand, you have somebody who's a strategic thinker, who sees a vision, and the other one who's really good at getting the job done. The style on one side is to foster commitment, to inspire people, while on the other side, it's, hey guys, this is the problem, this is how we solve it. And the outcome is very different. One is searching for long-term goals, is setting the path, and the other is managing a status quo project. You need management for leadership, but management does not mean leadership. There are various leadership styles, from charismatic to servant. Just briefly to give you a feel, charismatic leaders are those who are very strong communicators. They influence through their personality, and they make the other people feel important. They develop a passion. A transformational leader is one who's devoted to changing the system. They release the potential through empowerment. They empower their team, and they serve as a role model. The visionary is somebody who's committed to a change, and he lives the vision, and by living the vision, they set the standard and others follow. The people that follow are those that want to do something, want to be something, and are creative thinkers on their own. On the servant type of leadership, the primary element is the sense of justice, of doing something right, and the need to serve others, the seeking to see what the other people want and involve them in finding a solution. And then there's the participative leadership, where this type of leadership assumes that the team is consisting of individuals who are highly skilled and are interested. So the leader becomes more of a coach. They encourage, reflect. They take the input from the team to decide. It involves a team process in assessing, planning, and executing. But I think that you all would realize that effective leadership combines all of the styles and uses the style that is appropriate for the situation. Actually, going a little old school, that if I were going to define leadership, I like looking at what John Quincy Adams said. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. So what type of issues are faced by leaders today in healthcare? What type of challenges are faced by leaders? So these are the two big questions: issues, challenges. Actually, there's several, but there's several stakeholders involved in the leadership in healthcare. Are we talking about the healthcare workforce? Those of us collected today, clinicians, nurses, allied health professionals. Are we talking about hospital management? Are we talking about bureaucrats, politicians, or patient groups, or even the media? The issues and challenges vary according to who the stakeholder is. General in healthcare, there's several issues and challenges that relate to sustainability, patient expectations, clinical governance, delivery of health services, workforce capacity, especially now with the aging population, political intervention, influence, patient safety. There's no point in going through each of these areas, but just to give you a sense of the substance of the types of challenges that will be faced and are being faced by leaders in healthcare. Let's look at sustainability. What are some of the issues? Population changes. And with these population changes are also the social determinants of health, stress-related cardiovascular disease, and so on. The changing disease burden related to the aging population, technological advancements, the new tools, digital healthcare, resource limitation. What does a leader face when they look at these issues? What are their challenges? Well, how do they lead the debate? How do they determine the priorities? As a leader, they should determine the priorities. How do they assess technology to see which way to go? And how can they ensure to provide safe, quality, affordable patient care? What about workforce capacity and sustainability? Issues here are related to recruitment, retention, again, the aging workforce, the workforce shortage, future availability of skilled workforce, and of course, effective teamwork. What are these challenges faced by the leaders? Creating careers within a learning environment, training appropriate number of professionals, and creating new roles. More importantly, creating interprofessional teams that can function at a high level. What are the big challenges for a leader in healthcare? And here I'm going to share a concept and a process that we use at EUC. And this I'm sharing with Todori because this is something that the both of us have been working on. We encourage engagement. And by encouraging engagement, we achieve investment of our team. And then by that, we create a team coalition. I need to remind you, however, the best knowledge comes from other outside sources. And here I'm looking at the farmers and the contented cows concept, or the contented cows paradigm. They've seen that a cow with a name, a cow that is treated specially as an individual, yields more milk. What does this mean? You need to look at each member of the team individually. You need to make them feel important. So in the EUC concept, we realize that they can all do, some more, some less, but competence is the ability for them to do. And we try to move them to engagement, to involve them. We make committees. We involve them in the process. We involve them in the decision process. The ultimate aim is to get them to invest, to want to do. So the movement from engaged to investment is actually the subtle shift for having belief and pride in the process, commitment to improve, respect for the organization, respect for the team, and the willingness to go that extra step, to go that extra mile, to go over and beyond. Staff engagement, staff investment is achieved by a culture of trust, perceptions of fairness, acknowledgement of staff input and roles, and the leaders serving as a model, extremely important, with a flat hierarchy. So in our working model for advancement, first we lead ourselves. We make ourselves a role model. We put everything we can to show what can be done. We involve in this process engagement of our staff members, of our team. Everyone is engaged. And this then leads to a team coalition. So by leading ourselves, we transform the style. We show what we want to do. Engagement leads to investment. And team coalition, it changes the dynamics. So in this process, we have personal development and a strategic development so that we can achieve results. Let's look at a little bit of the new educational demands related to leadership. And the big questions are, what are the competencies required for healthcare leadership? And then how do you develop leadership? Well, professional bodies now recognize leadership as a core competence in healthcare, with all three areas needing to be covered: attitude, skills, and knowledge. Medical leadership is now in a competency framework of 5 domains, just briefly to give you an idea. And I think this is still a work in process because leadership is still de novo, still developing idea in healthcare. Domain 1 is demonstrating personal qualities, developing self-awareness, managing yourself, acting with integrity. The second domain is, now that you've developed yourself, is working with others, working in a team, encouraging the other team members to participate, to contribute, to build and maintain solid relationships, and to build networks. Management is also a part of leadership. Remember, in the beginning, we said the difference between management and leadership, but managing is part of leadership so that you can manage performance, you can manage people, which means delegate work to be done, resources to manage, and planning. And finally, improving services by facilitating transformation, by being able to step back and critically evaluate. And then setting the direction, making decisions, applying the knowledge and evidence to moving forward, and identifying the context for change. The importance of leadership is so well believed today that it's even looked at the student level. And even from the GMC, Tomorrow's Doctor, Outcome for Graduates, or the Association of American Medical Colleges, all put leadership as an essential competency for medical students so that they can enhance team function, the learning environment, and healthcare delivery. How can you develop leadership? Many ways. Mentoring, coaching, active learning, network, experiential learning. Coaching, goal-oriented, short-term, you're directed on how to become a leader. Action learning or active learning is by developing through observation and cooperation, networking, discussing mutually beneficial relationships and figuring out how it works. And mentoring seems to be one of the powerful ways to develop leadership, following a role model, where the mentor, however, invests time and energy and personal knowledge to allow the mentee to become better. Nonetheless, like in all good things in science, it's not just one thing. Actually, there's the 70-20-10 developmental model, which says 70% of leadership development is actually on the job experience, learning how to handle yourself in tasks, assignments, cross-functional projects, presentations. And 20% is coaching and mentoring, where you learn through others, through feedback, through a peer network and peer discussions, through mentors, coaches, shadowing. And 10% is actually training, conferences, professional development programs, e-learning programs. How do you become a leader? Well, one thing is self-assessment and self-reflection. Identify the skills that you need to move forward. Learning the ability to accept critique and accept change, and to be agile and flexible, to have courage to do the wrong thing, and tenacity to move forward and change. The ability to step out of your comfort zone, and more importantly, to accept accountability for the mistakes that you make. How to become a leader? Again, communication skills. Active listening here is a critical role. Listen without judgment, staying in the moment, not thinking ahead, but actually listening to what the person is saying. Open-ended questions, seek clarification. And you need to remember, that's my cat, that it's not about you. So when you ask a question and you're involved and you're listening to the person, you listen to what they say and you ask questions for them to answer, not what you've done, what you know, what you've read. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand, but they listen with the intent to reply. And that does not make a good leader. Learn to frame. You need to create a scheme of interpretation. You need to take the bits of information and make a mental map to associate it with an ideal, develop a construct for presenting in the future. Emotional intelligence is an important part of being a leader. It's the ability to understand how events and information affects others, and to perceive and evaluate their emotions, and to adjust your own behaviors with an understanding towards those emotions. Of course, we all are very aware of the difference between EQ and IQ. IQ is nice and important, but EQ is essential in leadership. Self-awareness, social awareness, motivation, empathy, the ability to self-reflect, to develop relationships, and have self-control. I'm going to close with something that's a little bit more hypothetical. Probably, I'm not sure how true it is, but something that I read that I liked and a little more philosophical, by looking at the team and the leader from a lesson from nature. I saw this a while back, and it's a pack of wolves in the snow. And some people may say, when they look at this pack of wolves, that followers will never know how hard it is for the leaders to create a path. And of course, this is the old school leader who says, I'm doing it and I'm working so hard and whatever. According to some naturalists, when they look at this pack of wolves, they say, well, okay, where's the leader? And the leader apparently is back here. I don't know if this is true. I like to believe it's true because it reminds me of the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, a leader is like a shepherd. He stays behind the flock, letting the most nimble go out ahead, whereupon the others follow, not realizing that all along they're being directed from behind. With that, I'd like to close and wish you all a happy new year, and thanking David and Matteo for doing such an excellent job.